This is Lois Whaley for Women Today and Yesterday. I have two special guests today. They are both involved with the upcoming International Women's Day Festival at Baker Center Ballroom, which is going to be on Sunday, March 19th from 2 to 6. And everyone is quite welcome to come. We'll be having a lot of different performers. And it's all free. And we've been doing it now for 8 or 9 years. And so people, I think, always enjoy it. I want to introduce my first guest, who is Emily.
Hi.
Hi, Emily. What's your last name?
My last name is Dacquisto.
Dacquisto. It has an Italian sound?
Yes.
Oh,
yes, very good.
Right. Well, I know I have seen you often at the Women's Center. I believe you work in programming there.
Yeah, I do.
How long have you had that position?
So I actually just started on the first day of class of fall semester.
Oh, I see. So you're brand new.
I am brand new.
There was a very nice older student here for a number of years. I think that she moved to the University of Virginia in Charlottesville.
Yep, that's right.
Which is actually a place I've been to a number of times because my second son was a student at UVA.
Oh.
Yeah, so, and of course it's a beautiful area and the home of Thomas Jefferson.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because he was the one who actually founded the University of Virginia and set it up, so it looks kind of like 1800, you know, as you might guess.
Yeah.
But what about your own background? Where did you attend college?
So I did my bachelor's at the University of Iowa, and that's in Iowa City. And I just finished my master's of social work at the University of Minnesota.
Minnesota, and in social work specifically.
Yes.
Well, that's, are you working on a degree here actually?
Not at the moment.
But you might go on for a PhD eventually.
I've thought about it a lot. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's all college work has its challenges.
Yes.
But the PhD is the biggest challenge of all.
Oh, yes.
I've never given it a try, I must say, but I do have 3 master's degrees.
Oh, wow.
And 2 of them are from Ohio University.
Okay.
So that's why I'm wearing this T-shirt. It says, I'm an Ohio woman. And yes, Matt is getting a picture of I am an Ohio woman. Actually, they were giving these out on Court Street about a year ago. There was some special thing that they had lots of these T-shirts, and they would approach people and ask if they were either a current student or had been at Ohio University sometime. So since I could claim that I had been at Ohio University, they gave me one of these nice T-shirts.
That's great.
And I wear many, many T-shirts. People often ask me how many I have, and I say, well, haven't counted lately, but probably 100, because I've been collecting them for probably almost 40 years.
Wow.
And
it's quite the collection.
T-shirts last a long time if you treat them well and don't wear them out. You know? I see you have a nice shirt that has a rainbow on it. Yeah.
I actually don't have any Ohio clothes yet. So
Oh, really?
I need to get some.
Yes. You probably won't be lucky enough to have someone hand you one on the street.
I wish.
Yes. But, yeah, we have all sorts, mostly in green and white, actually, because of the colors for Ohio University. What was your undergraduate major?
My undergraduate major was in psychology.
In psychology, okay. Which I'm sure you would find quite useful for social work.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Have you had any interesting, times when you spent the summer or something like that doing an internship?
Well, so during graduate school, I had to do 2 internships. My first year, my internship was with a very tiny nonprofit that was run out of a church, and they served adults with severe and persistent mental illnesses.
Oh dear.
And then my second internship was with the Campus Women's Center in Minnesota.
Well, those would be rather different clienteles,
Yeah.
wouldn't they?
And then I did spend a summer between my first and second years in Kenya with the School of Social Work. Yeah.
Actually, my most recent guest, the person who is currently on the air, is Kat Kutcher.
Oh, yeah.
Catherine Kutcher. And of course, she spent time in Kenya.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
She talked a little bit about it on our show. That she had spent at least a year in Kenya and doing research. So, and she got her PhD here at Ohio University and had an AAUW fellowship, which was really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, what took you to Kenya?
Well, I had never been to Africa before, and the opportunity came up to go to Kenya and work on 2 different community-based participatory research projects, and it was just a wonderful experience and opportunity, and I took it.
Yes, well, I've never been to Africa. I think that's, I've seen Africa in the distance, you might say, but I have basically been mostly in Europe. I spent a summer in Germany when my husband was in the army there, and that was in the 1950s.
Wow.
And then we were in England the following year after he finished his army service. Actually, he went to Oxford, and we were at Oxford, and I was teaching American servicemen.
Oh,
Yeah.
what an experience.
Right. Well, they were there essentially. It was before the days of missiles, shall we say.
Okay.
And American servicemen were stationed at a number of English bases along with artillery in terms of the artillery, because that was the, men actually manning guns kind of thing. That was the case. That was the technology in 1956. And they were actually just changing to missile technology while I was there.
Wow.
So a lot of the men were getting ready to go back to the States. And well, it was an interesting experience. I had mostly taught grade school students.
Okay.
And I was pretty young myself in those days. I mean, after all, it's almost 60 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and I was born in 1932, so I was still a kind of a young thing when I was teaching these fellows, but they were, and it was one of those things that you discover is good if they have a chance to have some competition. My very best classes were ones where the fellows started kind of competing with each other, and therefore they did more learning. Whereas some of the classes, the fellows were, oh gosh, Sergeant said I had to take this class, kind of thing. And those they didn't learn as much because they weren't open, you might say, to the whole idea of it. Well, whereabouts do you live here in Athens?
So I actually, not too far away from here, I live just off of Pomeroy.
In Pomeroy, okay. So you have a pretty good commute.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I think it's about 2 miles away from Baker.
Not Pomeroy, not the city of Pomeroy.
No, not the city. So just off of, if you turn off of Richland onto Pomeroy, just up the street.
Yes.
I'm just off of there on a side street.
Oh,
not too
okay.
far down.
You're on the road to Pomeroy.
Yes.
Well, Pomeroy's about 25 miles away. So.
Oh gosh, I couldn't do that.
Well, Kat was saying that she had a fairly long commute because she does live in Meigs County.
Oh yeah.
And back in the hills somewhere, so there are a lot of curvy roads and so on to get to Athens. But if you're only 2 miles from,
not bad at all.
not bad at all. Richland Avenue, that's not bad at all. Well, let's talk a little bit about the event itself.
Okay.
On March 19th. What role have you been playing in that?
So this is actually my first International Women's Day Festival
Yes.
at Ohio University, and so I've just been doing a lot of behind-the-scenes support work, coordinating the volunteers and the vendors and performers and creating schedules and reaching out to all of those folks.
There's so much that people don't see
Yeah.
that has to be done ahead of time.
Yes, definitely.
And that's what you're doing. Well, you mentioned the volunteers. I mean, I'm more familiar with the performers, you know, who will sing or dance or read poetry or read an essay or something like that. But what kinds of jobs do you have the volunteers doing?
Well, we have lots of different stuff. We, of course, have setup and cleanup.
Yes.
And then we have volunteers at the craft table, volunteers in the children's area. We have volunteers doing registration for the performers and the vendors. We have social media volunteers. And then we have volunteers sort of backstage, making sure all the performers are there and in the right order.
Yes.
And then we also have volunteers who try to help us keep track of attendance numbers.
Oh, yes. Because people do come in and out.
Right.
Yeah. It's a 4-hour stretch is not exactly, some people I think do come in and leave.
Yeah.
Especially if they've come specifically to see a personal friend performing or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. But from what you say, I understand some of the things that are there besides the performers, i.e. you mentioned the crafts.
Yeah.
What is that?
So there will be a craft table in the back of the room. We have not yet, I don't know any of the details of the craft this year,
right.
But there will be a craft station set up.
Where people can make something.
Yes.
And take it home.
Yep.
I think I mentioned at the meeting we had the other day that last year's I made a little thing
Yeah.
about this big, not really large, but it's a little stand. It has a little thing in the back that makes it stand up by itself. And it's wooden, and then I colored it with pasting strips on, you know, and then I pasted on a quotation from Eleanor Roosevelt. And, you know, these were all things that were available there at the craft table, a little wooden stand and the colored papers and so on, and even the quotes. So it's standing right by my telephone right this minute.
That's great.
So be sure and visit the craft table if you come to International Women's Day Festival.
Yes.
On Sunday afternoon, March 19th at Baker Center Ballroom. And you mentioned child care or the children's section, the place where What do the children do? I mean, I assume they're children of performers or people who are visiting the watching performances.
Right. So it's not a place for child care per se, but a
Right.
place for children to come, and we'll have some different women's empowerment coloring books, probably a couple of stuffed animals. Yeah.
Just some things that they can play with.
Yeah.
And that will engage their attention while their parent is watching or performing or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Yeah, that's a very nice service to offer. Now, I remember that there was some discussion that Dr. Murray talked about availability. Of course, it's from 2 to 6, which is really sort of after lunch and before supper. But if there's anyone who's coming who really needs a little more than just a glass of water,
Yeah.
there's an effort to have a food truck
Yeah.
downstairs.
Yes. So this year, for the first time, we're very fortunate to have the Ohio University catering food truck available. And it will be on the first floor just outside of Baker. And they have put together an entire menu just for us.
And that's downstairs on the escalators.
Yes.
Yeah, which is the one and only escalator set in Athens County. I mean, I have known of people, I mean, I've gone into Baker Center at times when someone was actually bringing a child so they could have the experience of riding on the escalator.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, so that's down on the first floor, and to get there by car, though, you have to drive quite some distance around. I mean, the fourth floor is where the Baker Center ballroom is,
Right.
right off of Court Street. So that's on the fourth floor. But the first floor, down the escalators and outside, you can see Grover Center across, and I'd say that's about a quarter of a mile drive at least from the front, the fourth floor, Baker Center, down and around and around and around, and you finally get to the front, the downstairs front of Baker Center. Yeah. And you say they're making a special menu?
Yeah, so Dr. Murray specially requested spring rolls, so those are on the menu. There will be a vegetarian sandwich wrap, there will be a salad, and I think maybe a couple of different chicken dishes, and curly fries.
Curly fries.
Yes, curly fries.
Are we talking about potatoes?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Right. Well, as you point out, that's a brand new feature this year. And that should be very interesting. And people who want something kind of substantial between 2 and 6 should look out for the food truck on the first floor, right outside the first floor of Baker Center. So that's another interesting part.
Yeah.
Now, one of the other things that's new, and I should mention that I have been involved with 8 previous festivals, including, well, Dr. Murray was here last year, you know, so she's gotten her feet wet.
Yes, she has.
On the festival aspect of Ohio University Women's International Day. Let's see. I was thinking of the fact that the tables for sales are going to be inside the ballroom this year, which is new. They have been in the outside hall there, right outside the ballroom itself, where all the pictures of the Ohio University presidents are hung.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's going to be inside this time. What kinds of things do you anticipate will be for sale?
For sale, I know we have a woman with an art studio who will be selling some of her art. I think we actually have a couple of those. And then I think we'll also have some jewelry for sale as well.
Yes.
And there will be Girl Scout cookies.
Girl Scout cookies, for sure. Yes. We've had those every year. I'm an old Girl Scout myself. I was a Girl Scout long, long years ago. 70 years ago, I was a Girl Scout out in my native state of Nevada. And I've been involved with Girl Scouts here, especially when my daughter was a Girl Scout herself, which was quite a long time ago, in the 1970s now. But yes, and Girl Scout cookies are just, I think, coming online right about now.
Yeah.
Yeah. March 12th is the Girl Scout anniversary.
Oh.
So that's, I think maybe that's, well, that would be the Sunday before our event.
Yep.
March 12th. But that was when Juliet Gordon Lowe asked the first group of girls to come to her home. Were you a Girl Scout?
I was a Girl Scout, but only for a couple of years.
Yes. Well, I was a Girl Scout, but only for a couple of years
Okay.
too. Whereas my daughter, I think, went through the whole bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now her daughters are, especially the little one, is I think a junior this year. But the first year she was a brownie before. So I know what the different things are that Girl Scouts are involved in. Did you go to camp when you were a Girl Scout?
I did not. Did you?
Well, yes, I did. I went up to Lassen National Park in California, which was a long drive away from where we lived.
I can imagine.
But yeah, it was a good 12 hours from the time we left our place and drove to Reno. It was about 120 miles to Reno, and then from Reno to get up to Lassen in Eastern California, northeastern California, was an additional lengthy trip. And the last 20 miles were on dirt roads. It was summer. It was hot. The windows were open. The dust came in the windows. And I thought we'd never get there. But we did, and it was fun.
Good.
Yeah, it was nice. Right. Well, so Girl Scout cookies for sure, but I know there will be other good things that will be for sale.
Yes.
At the International Day Festival. So what about the performers? Have you been involved with lining those up?
Myself and Dr. Murray together. Yeah.
So what do you think are some of the interesting things that we may see there?
We have so many exciting things. We have a couple of a cappella groups performing. We will have a tap dance class.
A tap dance class?
Yeah.
Are those small girls mostly, or?
I think so. We'll have a baton twirl performance.
Oh, wow.
We will have a banjo demonstration.
Banjo demonstration, wow.
We'll have some different styles of dance, so flamenco dance and tango dance. Yeah, so lots of exciting.
Lots of exciting things. Well, we've heard Emily tell us about a number of things upcoming at especially on March 19th from 2 to 6, Baker Center Ballroom, International Women's Day Festival. And shortly we're going to be talking with our second guest, who's also involved with the planning committee. And that's very nice. But thank you very much, Emily, for coming.
Thank you so much.
Now my second guest is here to talk about the International Women's Day Festival scheduled for Sunday, March 19th at Baker Center Ballroom from 2 to 6 in the afternoon. And my second guest, I'm going to call her Bukky because she has a wonderful name, which is maybe 13 characters long.
Yeah, something like that.
What is your real name, Bukky?
It is Oluwabukola.
Ah,
And then my last name is Shaba. So Oluwabukola means God has added to my wealth. So I'm the last child of my family, and I'm the added wealth to
the
everyone.
added wealth. Well, that's a wonderful name they gave you.
Yeah, I think so.
So you must have a number of brothers and sisters,
I
older.
do,
Oh,
I do.
yeah. How many are?
6. I have 1 brother and 5 sisters.
1 brother and 5 sisters. Oh, my. Well, but you're the youngest.
I'm the youngest.
You're
yes.
the youngest. So you had 5 sisters to show you and tell you just what to do, right?
Yes. And they still do.
And they still do, I'll bet. Well, I must admit, I was the oldest child, and I was an only child for almost 10 years.
Wow.
So I got that oldest child syndrome sort of thing myself. But it must be a lot of fun, really, sometimes to have 5 sisters.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
I mean, I think the thing for me was my immediate older sister is 6 years older. So there was just always that gap. So I was by myself a lot when I was younger because they were just too old for me to play with. You know, they couldn't come down to my level. They wouldn't let me sit with them and talk about boys or anything like that. So it was just interesting.
Well, that's true. In a sense, you were an only child, too, in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
In a way.
Well, we had a similar case in my case because I was 10 years old when my brother was born.
Wow.
And then I went away to college when I was 16, and he was 6 and just starting first grade. So we were 2 only children also, in a sense, because I was away at college when he was just starting school himself. Families vary a good deal, don't they?
They do. They do.
Now, I believe you're from Nigeria.
Yes, I'm from Nigeria and West Africa.
West Africa. And what part of Nigeria are you from?
I'm from Ondo State, which is in the southwest of
In
Nigeria.
the southwest, okay. Is it near the ocean?
Not in a way, I would say, you know, because we do have a port in Lagos, which is like the biggest, one of the biggest, most bubbly city in Nigeria. And yeah, so we're just right along that south. Lagos is also in the southwest. So we do have some parts of the state that are close to the ocean, yeah.
Well, you know, I noticed, because of an interest in geography, I noticed one time a place that is nowhere on the map, and it's very close to where you live.
Interesting.
It's where the prime meridian crosses the equator, because the equator is 0, and the prime meridian is 0. So it's 0 and 0 right out there in the Gulf of whatever that is, near the hump of Africa.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I had the very nice experience of standing one time when I was in London, because these things were all set up in England originally. And the north and south goes right through Greenwich, which is into the eastern part of London, Greater London.
Right.
So I was able to stand with my foot in one half in the east and one half in the other foot in the west.
That's amazing.
Right there on the prime meridian.
Wow, amazing.
I've never forgotten that.
Yeah, I'm sure it was very memorable, yeah.
That was something quite memorable, really. Okay, now tell me, you're a graduate student here?
Yes, I am.
What field are you studying?
I'm studying Communication and Development Studies in the Center for International Studies. That's like my faculty. Yeah.
And how long have you been here?
Fall of 2015. That's when I got here.
Since 2015?
Yes.
So you're an old habitué.
Kind of.
You've been around a while, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Well, that's nice. And are you active with one of the graduate student groups?
Oh, yeah. I'm part of the Graduate Student Senate, a commissioner there for graduate student life. And I also recently headed a committee for the Outstanding Graduate Faculty Award. We'll be giving that out in a few weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, that must keep you busy along with all your
yeah.
work that you have to do for your degree and so on.
Yeah, it does.
Are you involved with doing a dissertation?
No, but I'm doing a capstone for a certificate that I'm taking alongside my degree. So I have to do a capstone. The certificate is the African Humanitarian Studies. So I have to do a capstone for that. But for my degree, I have the option to write comprehensive exam instead of a project or a thesis. So that's what I'm doing.
Yes. So are you looking forward to wrapping up your degree, or will you be here another year, do you think?
No. No, this is done. So I'm graduating in April.
Oh,
yeah,
my goodness.
Walking, on that big
Right.
stage.
It's practically here, isn't it?
It is, and I'm really excited about it.
Well, you're probably a somewhat older student, maybe? No?
Or
did you have a job back in Nigeria before you came here?
I did. I did my bachelor's. I graduated from got my bachelor's degree in 2011. So I've worked since then until 2015 when I came for my master's. Yeah.
What kind of work were you doing in Nigeria?
Right. So for my undergraduate degree, I studied communications and language arts. And so I was very much interested in broadcasting. So I was working on radio, and I did something small on TV as well. And I also branched out a little bit at some point to work at an HR firm. Just we do a lot of recruiting and editing CVs and those kinds of things. But just before I came, my last job was at a radio station.
At a radio station itself.
Yeah.
My undergraduate life was quite busy. I probably would have been a better student if I had done a little less outside of my studies, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I never let classes get in the way of my education, shall we say.
Interesting.
So I did have a brief time on the campus radio station. I had a friend who had a program, and so he got me involved with the radio station for a while. And it was interesting because when I first met him, he thought he was going to be a doctor. He was studying, biology and chemistry and all this sort of thing. And I think it was his very last year, actually, in college that he got involved with the campus radio station. And what do you know, he became a radio specialist and forgot about that whole business about becoming a doctor.
Interesting.
Although I know that he was involved with some programs that looked at science, on the radio, but we don't always wind up doing the things we thought we were going to do.
Yeah, yeah, that happens a lot.
It happens quite often, I'm afraid. So how did you get involved with the Women's Day Festival?
So ever since I discovered the Women's Center, I think that would be sometime before towards the end of 2015 or so, I just fell in love with the place. So I used to go in quite often, you know, so I would, and then I started attending events. They would have this brown bag lunch and, you know, all of those kinds of, you know, and this academic year, they started the International Students Coffee Hour, International Women Students and women in graduate school, and all. It was just, so the Women's Center for me just has this positive vibe. It was just, it was like an escape for me. So whenever I was tense or stressed, I would just go in there, and I really love the purple couch in the Women's Center, and I would just sit in there. So I guess it was one of those times that Dr. Murray just asked what I was doing and told me about it, and asked if I would be interested in being a part of it.
Well, that's wonderful. I remember when the Women's Center opened. Actually, Baker Center itself opened, I believe, in 2007. Right. And so the Women's Center was opening that same time. And it's not a large place, but it's a very welcoming place.
It is, it is.
And they have many, many books there, for instance, that you can look at, and they have a whole rack of women's magazines. And as you point out, they have special programming. And I'm actually getting ready to put on a program myself.
Awesome.
Yeah, later this month. Dr. Murray, who is the director there, heard me talking about my experience in 1977, long before you were born.
Yes.
With the women's meetings that they held here in the U.S. in 1977. And that was a follow-up to the first United Nations women's meeting.
Right.
The most recent one has been in Beijing in 1995. But the first one was held in 1975 in Mexico City, you know, right in our own hemisphere here.
Right.
And there was this follow-up plan about having women's meetings around the world in the various countries that had participated at the Mexico City meeting. And the U.S. was one of those. So it really got started with not only under three presidents, because first was President Nixon, and he resigned in 1974 after the Watergate scandal. And then his vice president, Gerald Ford, was the president for 2 years. So he was president when the Mexico City meeting was actually held.
Okay.
And then he ran in 1976, but he lost the election to Jimmy Carter. So there were three presidents, U.S. presidents, involved actually with, in a sense, with preparations for the women's meetings, which were held in 1977. And I was on the planning committee for Ohio. Every state had a meeting, and they elected delegates to go to Houston, Texas, for a national meeting held in November of 1977. So anyway, I had quite an experience on this planning committee for the Ohio meeting, which was in June of 1977. And I'm going to be talking about that at the Brown Bag Lunch after our International Women's Day event. It's going to be the Thursday after that. So I'm looking forward to talking about that.
I think that's something I would want to attend just to learn more, because just hearing you talk about it right now it's very fascinating. I would like to hear more about that.
Well, as we said before, things don't always turn out the way you thought they were going
Right.
to. And that was definitely one of those experiences that turned out rather differently from what we had expected. But very good, very good. And like I say, there were 56 meetings because there are meetings in all 50 states, and then there were 6 territories,
Right.
6 U.S. territories that also had women's meetings. So it was quite a and unique. It's the one and only national women's meeting, official women's meeting, you know, supported with some money from the federal government to be held that there's ever been in this country.
Right.
And it was just following. We had already had a very big run-up because 1976 was the bicentennial of the Declaration of Independence for the United States, you know, getting away from being a colony of Britain.
Right.
And so we'd had a very busy 5 or 6 years getting ready for that event. And that was in July of 1976. And then, meanwhile, we were working on getting the women's meeting set up for the following year. So it was a busy time.
I can imagine.
Did you work in Nigeria, or I shouldn't say perhaps work, but were there some extracurricular activities that you were involved with?
Yes, you know, just like you, I kind of prioritize some things over schoolwork, you know, because I guess when I got into the university, I learned that I was a very shy high school kid, you know, so getting to university was my time to finally come out of that shell.
Good.
I'm coming to my own, so my self-esteem got a little better, and I just wanted to really, so communication was something I really wanted to do. And so getting into school for the first year, I remember being part of like the broadcasting day thing we used to have. So we would set up a studio at our department, and I invited a guest, you know, that people didn't think like he was an established broadcaster in town. And I brought him into the school just to have this interview at a very tiny studio. You know, it looked very much like this one. Yeah, and so I did that, and in my 3rd year in school, I got involved with a student organization that was interested in raising student leaders and training them in entrepreneurial activities and things like that. And I also got on radio, on my campus radio, so I did that for 2 years. And so I was part of the press, so I used to write for like the university, where we called it University Campus Journalists, and it was just a really busy time now that I think about it. Yes. I did way too much. And then when I left school, I started volunteering more just because I had done all of that in school, and now I had to do other things just to, because my heart was just in helping and helping people. I've always been interested in like, what can I do to make your life better? You know, so I started volunteering with this organization that works with homeless kids, and they founded a shelter, and I used to go there and just hang out with the kids, and we would go on the streets and talk to more kids, or have like a soup kitchen where we just take food to people on the streets who couldn't get good food. And yeah, so that's been my life.
You're right. You kept yourself quite busy.
Yes, I did.
And in a useful way.
Right.
Right. Being able to help the homeless children, really important.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, I also tended to go along with some of my friends in college. And of course, like I say, this is a long, long time ago, over 60 years, because I've been married for 62 years myself. So it's a long time ago now. But I remember going with one of my second year, my sophomore year at Stanford, and my roommate was involved with the school newspaper.
Oh.
So I went along with her, and that year in particular, and that was a good actual education in things useful, like writing stories for, not that I wrote that many, but I had to write a couple, and you have to run around and do things and talk to people and then actually sit down and type the whole thing out and make the deadline.
Yeah, I guess those things served as good foundation for like time management
Yes.
and multitasking. There were just a few skills that we picked up doing those that now became very relevant when we got on jobs or whatever.
Right.
After that.
And then my junior year, I went with a friend who lived on the same corridor. By then, I didn't have to have a roommate. I had a nice single room myself. Casa Granada, which was right by the little lake that they have at Stanford. That's not a real lake, you know, I mean, it's a reservoir.
Ah, I see.
But and it's dry part of the year, at least it was back in that day. It's dry part of the year, and then with the winter rains, because they have Mediterranean type of weather out in California, it would fill with water. And in the spring, it'd be very nice. I mean, people could bring boats, little boats, you know, rowboats and little sailboats and things like that to the lake. So we were very close to Lagunita, the little lake in Casa Granada. Anyway, I went with my friend Naomi to the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, which is probably the oldest group in the country that was really organized to be interested in helping black people.
Right.
And so I learned a lot from my friends and learned a lot with the groups that I was involved with as well. So that's one of the good things about college.
Right.
It expands your universe.
That's true. That's true.
Have you done other traveling in Africa?
I've only been to Ghana. So that's so I've done Nigeria, and then going to Ghana from Nigeria, it was a road trip. So I kind of went through Benin Republic and Togo and Cote d'Ivoire before getting to Ghana. So that's
West African countries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's all the travel.
Well, I remember when Ghana became independent. It was during the time we were in England, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yesterday was your independence, actually.
Yeah.
They celebrated.
As an independent country. It had been called Gold Coast, I believe.
Yes.
Until then, as a sort of an English, not exactly colony, but a protectorate or something like that. And yeah, it's a long time ago, too. 1957, I believe, 1956, 57, along in that time. Have you been to Europe?
No. No, not yet.
Not yet.
Because I do plan to travel a little bit, but not yet.
Well, that's something to look forward to. We lived about 2.5 years total in England. And then I spent a summer in Germany with my husband. He was there for a year with the U.S. Army. And then we've been to France, of course, because right between England and Germany, you just about have to go through France.
Right.
And Spain. Spain is a country that my husband, who is a historian, has done work on.
Yes.
They had a civil war there before World War II, Spanish Civil War. And he's a specialist on the intervention that was done by the Nazi Germans in aid of one of the sides on the Spanish Civil War. Mussolini was in charge, Hitler was in charge in those days, so, and they intervened in Spain. So, politics,
Yeah.
it keeps going too. Well, is there something in particular that you're looking forward to for International Women's Day Festival?
Oh, lots of things. I think the first thing would be the performances.
Yes.
That is always so amazing, just to see all of those different cultures being represented, and women, you know, and even men celebrating women. That's something I personally enjoy. And I'm going to be an MC at this year's event,
Yes.
so I'm excited about that and looking forward to that. Also, the vendors. I think there is something that those people bring to the event as well with the things they sell, you know, things that matters.
Yes.
They're usually like little things, but you just start to see like the sentiment attached to some of those jewelry that are being sold. Or,
Yes.
you know, so yeah, I'm looking forward to all of that.
Right. And that's not too far away.
No, it's not. It's actually
Yeah.
right here.
Because next Sunday is the 12th, and then it's the Sunday after that,
19, yes.
on the 19th. Right. And as I was talking with Emily about, March 12th is actually Girl Scout Day. So I've got a couple of things to look forward to coming up. Girl Scout Day on March 12th.
I love
and
their
then
cookies.
finally, our big International Women's Day Festival. And international is part of it, and it's really wonderful to have international people like yourself involved.
Yeah, we're pretty, it's going to be exciting because this year we've got 4 MCs and 3 of us are international. I'm from Nigeria. We've got Helen from Trinidad and Tobago. We've got Handsome from Oman. And then we have Elizabeth, who is from the US. And fantastic. I mean, I'm just going to keep the suspense and hope that everybody watching comes to the show because it's going to be so great.
Right. Well, and they represent different parts. Trinidad is in the Caribbean.
Yes, it
and Oman, I believe, is on the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, on the Arabian Peninsula.
Right.
So that's the Middle East. And then you from Africa.
Right.
Yeah, and then someone from the U.S. as well.
Very diverse.
Yes. So we're going to be really international, International Women's Day Festival.
Right.
Have you talked with your co-MC?
Oh, yes. I'm actually, so we're working in pairs, and Helen and Handsome are working together, and I'm working with Elizabeth, who is from the U.S., who is like the most amazing woman I've met. Hey, Elizabeth. You know, because she got the Women Achievement Award recently. She's pretty great.
Oh, really?
I'm not even trying to brag. She's amazing. She's a mom.
Yeah.
When I see moms who are working, it's double respect for me.
Yes,
Like it's so yeah. We've talked, and we're still talking and planning, and you know, seeing how we can bring enough excitement and just keep people excited throughout the show.
Yes, and as I mentioned earlier, things are set up differently. It's going to be interesting because in the past they were trying to have things broadcast or, you know, slides in the back and in the front. Well, at either end of the ballroom. And so it was kind of dark in there because they thought it would show up better.
Right.
And this year, as I understand it, they're going to have one side sort of dark and have things broadcast, slides and things. And the other part is going to be more light for the display tables and the sales tables and the place where the children are and the craft section and so forth. And it'll be nice to see how that works out, but I think that will be a good idea because in the past it's been pretty dark in there. So dark you sometimes couldn't really see the displays too well.
Oh,
you know.
That's not good. Okay.
Because there were a lot of display tables on both sides of the ballroom. And that's an additional feature is the displays themselves. Different groups that are bringing displays and various women's groups and student groups.
Yeah, last year I was part of a class, a global feminism class, and we we all did like poster presentations of, you know, different women issues. I remember my group worked on how women have used social media to advance movements, you know, in different parts of the world. You know, the US has done it pretty much, but a lot of African countries, like my own country, I don't know if you heard about the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, where some girls were abducted from their school by local terrorist group. And so social media has been and we're able to display that during the International Women's Day Festival, and I thought that was really great. Yeah.
Right, well, it's going to keep us busy making sure everything is all set to go for March 19th in the afternoon, Sunday, 2 to 6, Baker Center Ballroom. And we're getting toward the end of our time together.
Thank you.
Bukky.
This has been so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, I always have a good time with folks who come, the women who come. I talk exclusively to women at this time.
Good.
Yeah, I talk to plenty of men other times, all right. But, and I've been doing it for about 10 years now. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is.
I'm growing old in it.
Well, you're still very amazing. Like, I wouldn't guess your age. You know, I wouldn't have guessed it.
84. Right.
Isn't she amazing for 84?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yes. Soon be 85 in June. June is my birth month.
Awesome.
Anyway, this is Lois Whaley for Women Today and Yesterday, and thanking my two guests, Emily and Bukky, who've been talking about our International Women's Day Festival on March 19th, Baker Center Ballroom from 2 to 6. This is Lois Whaley for Women Today and Yesterday.